You're listening to the New Dominion podcast, where we engage in curious and faith-filled conversations about stewarding our health and community with others. We're so glad you're here. Let's get started.
Hello again.
Hello, good morning.
As an aside, should we introduce ourselves? Because we didn't do that last time.
Yeah. Who are you, man in gray?
I'm Taylor. I'm a mental health counselor.
I'm Abby. I'm a chiropractor and functional nutritionist.
And I'm Kirsten. I'm a functional nutrition practitioner.
With a counseling degree.
With a counseling degree.
And BS in education. And if we wanted to take a podcast to just list all of the experiences and trainings we've both had, that would probably take the full 40 minutes.
That could be fun.
That could be fun. Of just like, how did we get here? And we could just list it out. But
so today we are bravely entering a conversation about some really big things. And our goal is to give a bird's eye view of these big things and dive in more later. And we might even discover more things while we're talking right now that we need to dive in on more later. But we're talking about genetics and your family tree. Genetics, epigenetics, and your family tree has encompassed so much. And Taylor, your background and your current work as a counselor brings a lot about family life into the conversation on genetics and epigenetics, because it's all connected. When we are looking at people, at who we are, at who the people that we are serving are and what they bring to the table, their mental, physical, emotional, spiritual selves is all really one person. And that is what a part of what we believe and practice and apply when we look at the whole person.
Mm-hmm. The WHOLE, right? The holistic person, right?
yes. WH.
Which people should go back and listen to episode 0, where we talk more about holistic and why we would like to spell it WHOLISTIC. So we are coming up on going home for the holidays. A lot of people go home for the holidays or just spend more time with family in general, which puts genetic conversations and epigenetic conversations and things about our families front and center in our minds, whether it is health conversations around the dinner table, what we're eating, the way that our bodies feel as we re-enter our homes, the things that come up in our minds. There's so much here.
There's so much here. It's such a strange bird, like how, when you leave your parents' home and then you go back, it gets easier now that we're 20 years married. But I remember you go back and the patterns that just boom, just are right there. And the patterns, like we've been talking about healthy habits on all these prior episodes and the little things. And maybe you've been fighting to drink water or fighting to go for a walk every day. And then you hit your parents' house or hometown or whatever it is. It's like all that flies out the window. It's like, what happened? And why don't I have any control over my habits now that I'm back in this old setting?
Or my emotions, or my thoughts, or how I react, right? It is, if you think of, just to define family systems briefly, I'm not a family systems therapist, but I dabble in it because it's ever present, right? And so if you think of family systems of like an electric board, like with circuits in different places, so each person has a place on the board. And the goal of the family system is to find homeostasis, which is status quo, which is relative peace or not chaos, right? Sometimes the status quo is chaos. That's a whole different conversation we'll put over there. But if you think you have a place in that family system, and even just because you up and move yourself to a different city, when you come back in, you kind of slide right back into that spot, right? And so you start functioning and interacting with the people in that system as if you never left. Now, the goal of therapy in a lot of ways is to help people become differentiated or to become different from who they are in their family system, to be more like the person they are outside of the home and bring that person back in. Now, that's easy to talk about, hard to conceptualize, harder to do, because Even now, I go back and I see my dad, and we fall back into the pattern of surfacey conversations and or avoiding emotional topics because we're really good at it. I mean, I can ask my dad any emotional question and he's going to be sarcastic.
Hmm.
He's going to dismiss him as he's not in need of anything. He doesn't have emotions. But if I push a little further, he'll actually respond. So I've just had to learn to stay with it for me and to avoid my passivity of like, well, he obviously doesn't want to talk. So I'll just wander over here and sit in the corner and do nothing, you know? And so that's kind of like family systems, but that's talking about relational. That doesn't talk about genetics or epigenetics. And we haven't even mentioned the impact of legacies of families, right? Of generational patterns that are created from rolling those things down into new generations. And so I feel like we can see if we get there or not. That could be obviously future episodes. We have a lot to talk about, but I wanted to kind of set the stage for like why do people go back to what they do when they go home? Because most of the time they're not paying attention or they're scared of doing something and they just want to
Mhm.
keep peace. It's the holidays. We don't want to cause a big problem. We don't want to do these things. Do you know when there's one of the largest upticks in counseling? Heading into the holidays and right after the holidays. So
Don't doubt
just,
that.
yeah.
Abby, do you see that uptake in clients coming into your office before thanks or before holidays and after holidays?
Really just because I take a week off and they're like, "Oh, I better get in
Right. Yeah.
before." I see more of the post-holiday confession of I ate too much pie, drank too much alcohol. Shame on me. I didn't meet my health goals that we've been working on for the last 3 months and I went back into my old patterns because that's just you're out of your new habit. And I think it's interesting how part of that like you were saying Taylor like you fall back into those old patterns. You're not differentiated, but it's like your neurology isn't changed fully yet. You've done the work outside of your family system to add water, to eat better, to get better sleep, whatever it might be, to take your deep breaths. Your neurology is learning how to do that. You know, I'm from Ohio. We just went to Ohio for Thanksgiving. So I'm used to operating in St. Louis. We drive back to Ohio and it is wild. I mean, I'm getting better at it after 20 something years, but how easy it is for my body to remember what it did in Ohio, like how it
Mm-hmm.
interacted when I was 25, like
Mm-hmm.
totally different. Taylor's laughing because he says all we eat in Ohio is butter. And
And
so
donuts.
and, yeah, man, Kennedy's donuts. It does. It's so true. I don't eat sugar. I really don't eat donuts here. Every once in a while, I get a hankering. We'll get a good donut, but I go home to my mom and dad's, and when I
If
was
your
a
mom and
kid,
dad
I
come visit, they're bringing donuts. I mean,
they
for
do,
crying out
and it's
loud.
great. But to decrease the amount that I ingest takes awareness and effort and finding new ways to connect with them and not just sharing a donut together. And not that that's the only way my family and I interact, but you know, there are different things to do. And you learn that obviously as we age and we now have kids in the mix, and that changes the family system. But yeah, I just think it's amazing that neurology piece, that's part of it. And there's a reason why you shouldn't beat yourself up over it because, again, you're going to have to struggle through it and have small gains so that it does look different
Well,
years down the
in
road.
that struggle, I think we think just because we're good at something in one setting that we should be able to blanket apply it to everything,
Mm,
right? But that's not how our emotional worlds work. Just because I've grieved this thing, well, then that doesn't mean that you're not going to be caught off guard by a date, a smell, a line from a movie, or a song. Like these things come and they can T-bone you emotionally because you're not looking for them. And so you haven't learned to grieve that in that setting. Like you haven't learned to
mm,
apply these in terms of family stuff. Like you've learned to practice yoga every day in your rhythm of your every day of going to work, having your time. But now there's holidays don't have a time frame. They have chaos, demands on your time in a different way. So you don't have the ability to kind of or haven't practiced the ability to do that in a different setting. So why do we assume that we would be good at something across the board blanket? Because we want to be all or nothing. It's like I don't want to have to struggle each place I'm going, but sometimes it takes a number of repetitions to do something well. And
mm.
so, like, we're just not patient with ourselves very much. And we're really wanting everything to kind of be done yesterday. Well, that's not really how our bodies work. So,
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah. My brain quickly makes connections between family systems and how we function as family units and epigenetics. I think I see that more than I look at genetics just because I don't think about the nitty gritty as much. But Abby, I wonder if you can say a little bit about what genetics are and what epigenetics are from a physiological standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, I think most people are, if you were awake in the 90s and the whole Human Genome Project started, you're pretty familiar with genetics being, that good old DNA, double helix formation, cells coming together when a sperm and an egg meet. Each one shares part of their genetic code, and that creates this new human. And out of that genetic code is the blueprint for the creation of that human. And what we believe to be true, because this is still, we're all in process scientifically. But the space of like, we know that there is gene expression to make you guys have brown eyes and me have green eyes, right? And no amount of epigenetics that I'm aware of yet can make our genes change expression, right? Like you're going to have brown eyes forever. I'm going to have green eyes forever. But there are genes that can be triggered, turned on, turned off by the environment that they're in. Your genetics have a design. Maybe both of your parents have blood pressure issues, right? There's a predisposition in your genetics. Now you take on that eating fast food every day where you're not getting real nutrition, and a lot of it is inflammatory. That inflammatory reaction combined with a predisposition for this gene to be expressed, now the gene's expressing itself, and you have high blood pressure now, like your mom and dad did. And that can go through a lot of different ways. Myself, I have a blood disorder called hemochromatosis. It's a genetic thing. It can be non genetic. Mine happens to be genetic. Never had that gene expressed, never had high iron issues, which is what that is, until we lived in a home that had black mold in our bathroom, unbeknownst to us for a few years. Highly likely that that triggered my body into expressing that gene that's been there. And here I am, right? 10 years later, working through that and managing it to the best of my ability. But the symptoms of hemochromatosis are few and far between these days because I work hard at the things that support my body's dealing with that gene expression. So I don't eat that inflammatory foods. I try to work out regularly. Like there's things that help my body manage that expression of the gene. And there's arguments of whether you can change gene expression and studies that show you can, which is really great when it comes to a lot of that kind of fatalistic mentality that we fall into of like, well, my dad has type 2 diabetes, so I'm going to have it. A good example is my mom having rough pregnancies and me being pregnant and her concern, rightly so, loving me and wanting me to have safe pregnancies, me being aware of that and making sure that like, okay, I'm going to take birth classes. I'm going to be educated. I'm going to work really hard on my diet, all these things that I'm going to do. And I had 3 wonderful home births, right? So there's a space of knowing your family genetics is really important. And I'm sure, Taylor, you would say the same for the psychological and mental health space of like, if was it your family you didn't know had depression in there until you went to college?
yeah. So before I answer that, like, I just want to
Yeah,
clarify predisposition doesn't mean you're automatically going to get it.
right.
And so I think that's where a lot of people kind of get hung up on is because, well, I have a legacy of cancer of some sort in my family. So I'm assuming I'm going to get it. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
operate under fear that I'm going to get it. And I'm going to kind of exist in that circular thinking of like spiraling upwards of fear. Would you maybe say that constant thinking and mulling and ruminating on that actually would take that predisposition into activation?
Absolutely. I mean, and there's studies that show that, and we can post those in the show notes.
Okay.
There are plenty of studies. How I see it and how I like cognitively understand it day to day with patients is just it's increased stress, right? It's if you're fretting, I mean, I love that about the Psalms. That's like a constant thing that God is saying. do not fret, do not fret, do not fret. And it's that anxious, toiling worry that goes on about stuff you cannot control. And that does, it triggers sympathetic nervous system. It activates inflammatory cytokines. Like there's a whole thing that happens physiologically because stress is stress is stress. And I think that's one thing that we don't necessarily understand about our bodies. And I don't, this is one of the things I will ask Jesus when I get to heaven is why did you design us this way? Because it doesn't matter if it's an emotional stress and an argument in our marriage. It doesn't matter if it's a physiological stress and I've just been poisoned with whatever, E. coli. It doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter what the stress is. It could be a broken bone, a fight with your spouse, it's the same pathways that are activated. So if you're just low grade fretting in the back of your mind and nobody even knows it's going on, it's still activating a stress pathway and all the fallout that comes from that. And that changes gene expression in and of itself.
So emotional versions of that, I'm not gonna tie that to epigenetics necessarily because I think there are predispositions obviously for things like maybe bipolar or schizophrenia, anxiety potentially, but I think some of those are also created within the context of the home. And so like we might often confuse emotional predispositions or mental health predispositions for the culture of trauma in our house that we, of neglect or lack of engagement or maybe abuse outright, And so I think understanding your health history, mental health history, like my mom didn't tell me that she had suffered from bouts of depression in her life, probably hid it very well because I think my mom's main driver story was not to be a burden. And so she often repressed or suppressed a lot of her emotional world. And so I get to college freshman year and I'm like, oh my gosh, like everything sucks. Like what's the point? I can't even, I mean, I'm at a relatively active school in terms of like social lifestyle and I'm sitting at home in my dorm on Friday night going, in the dark even. It was depressing. Like, even thinking about it's depressing. But that's also where God met me. So I think, but like even just having, if I had known that, I'm not sure what it would have changed for me in my unaware 18-year-old body. I don't know if I would have done anything differently. I probably would have like moped and be like, oh, here we go. I'll be depressed and I'll just sit here in the dark. I mean, I probably would have embraced it in a very negative way. But so I think there's just like, it's good to know things, but I think we often take what we know and we assume the worst about our health, about our what's going to be happening, instead of being like, oh, that's a thing. Well, it doesn't have to be a thing for me. And if it is, well, then hemochromatosis I can manage, or anxiety I can learn, relational difficulties I can grow. But when we don't give ourselves the benefit of the doubt that we can grow and can change, then that's where we get stuck in kind of like, well, I'll just do my Charlie Brown walk and slump my way through life. And because what's the point? It's already predetermined. And I'm like, that's not how God works. That's not what he's done.
Yeah.
That's not that's the gift he wants to give us. So
we talked about, I'm thinking about the connection between this and hormesis and what you guys are saying about stress. If the stress of being anxious about turning on some of these genes can actually predispose your body to potentially turning those on, what's the difference between that kind of stress and good stress that you enter when you're pushing your body into a hormetic state?
So, hormesis is meant to be a small amount of stress for a short amount of time. That's hormesis. And that
thank you.
challenges you to rise up and become more capable, right? I'm not going to go run a marathon tomorrow because I only ran 3/4 of a mile the other night, and that was a lot, right? My next goal would be a 5K, and we're going to do that incrementally to build up. That's hormesis. That's the plan. Those baby steps is hormesis to get you to the next level. The constant fretting or the consistent habit, whatever it might be, whether it's an external expression or an internal mental loop, I think the issue is if it's persistent over a long period of time, that's where it becomes a stressor. Yeah. Do
Yeah,
you
I
remember what
mean,
you wanted to add?
yeah, I think the word rumination kind of comes in, for me of like just this space of I'm constantly carrying around the same thoughts. There's not a moment where I don't have them at least on my periphery of thoughts. Like even if I'm distracted by something, the moment I'm done, it slides right in there and is in full frontal view of my conscious awareness. And so that ruminating, that constant, like we don't just, and I think one thing that people maybe misunderstand is like, it's not just like a circle that we just kind of walk and it just wears the grass down around the tree. Like, no, it escalates. It gets more intense. Every time we add plaque to that because we add more things or we attach it to more things. And like obviously we care because when you ruminating on something, it's an anxious thought, it's consistent. So we care about it because we want to be healthy or we want to have a better relationship. But we're often taking and thinking of it from the worst possible point of view, not giving the possibility of something better. So we're assuming the worst, and we're assuming the worst in perpetuity, like ongoing forever. And once we start thinking into the future, we really come out of our system into and out of our own dominion of territory here because that's not our space. The future does not belong to us. It's God's. Like he knows, he's numbered our days. He knows the breaths we're going to take. He understands the things we're going to go through in a way that we might conceptualize by making a choice and knowing that there might be a consequence, but he knows the ripple effects of that consequence. And so we get ourselves into hot water when we go beyond today, and so acknowledging that we have a family history of anxiety does not mean that we're going to be anxious forever. Acknowledging that my struggle with my relationship with my father or my sister or my mom doesn't mean that we're always going to be there because we can do something about it, but we get stuck in like, but does it even matter? Like, and we just kind of stay, right? So
Yeah. So I'm hearing it has a lot to do with how you use the stress and whether you're sitting in that and staying in those anxious thought patterns, or if you are taking small steps towards making a change based on what you're concerned about, whether
Yeah.
that's in mental health space or physical health.
what would you guys say that are the two defaults for our response to stress?
Our two defaults.
Like two
Are
default
there only
movements?
two?
No, but I mean two broad.
I think either freezing.
So lethargy, like shutting down, right?
I was going to call it fear, but yeah.
Yeah. Freezing probably out of fear or fleeing out of fear.
So overactive.
Uh-huh.
And so
Well,
I
I
think
was going to say control, like either
Mm.
fear and running or like almost attacking it too much, like going
Yeah.
at it too much and
exactly. I
trying to
think there's
control
a
it.
think of the busy soccer mom who overpacks her schedule because she's not ever going to sit with the emotional burden of the disconnection of her marriage or something like that.
Sure.
So she's just going to keep going, keep going, keep going. She's going to add more because if she knows if she sits, it's going to come, right? So that the fear and creates the emotional stress that we're avoiding. The other side is like, I hear people say this a lot. They're like, well, I get done with work and all I want to do is go home and like veg out. And I'm like, but there's still things to do at home. There's still work to be done. There's still kids or task or connection with your partner. But oh my gosh, it just seems like so much. And like if the overfunctioning and the underfunctioning just did a little bit of the opposite,
Yeah.
like what changes? I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Like if the overfunctioner just sits still for a minute and breathes, they actually come into their body and they actually can deal with their stress in a lot better way. If the underfunctioner just gets off the couch, like literally, I tell people, don't sit on the couch. The moment you sit on the couch, you're done. You're done. You're cooked. You're not going to get up. Why don't you just run in place for 30 seconds?
Or go, I tell
Go
people
for a
all the time,
walk.
like go for a walk around the block.
Yeah.
It changes everything because you get
It changes your
fresh
physical
air.
chemistry of your brain. Like it does a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And it lets go of all the cortisol that you've built up all day. Like if you're sitting in a high stress job or if you're just home with the kids, right? Like high stress job.
That is a high
Hello.
stress job. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like if you're going all day, your body, that stress is chronic cortisol, and we're not meant to handle all of it at once. So our body's meant to do some, process it, deal with some, process it. And so if you're a constant and it's building up, you have to get it out. And the best way to get that out is to move your body because we're built with that fight or flight mechanism. So if we know we can't flee our kids, we can't flee the desk at work, we are staying in it, which is great, but our physiology, the stress of that is still the same. So it's still creating cortisol, it's still in you, and you're staying in it. So it's consistent and chronic, the best way to get it out of your body is to move, because your design was to run away from the tiger, but we can't run away. So we're not getting that movement to tell our bodies, hey, we're flushing the cortisol out, we're flushing the stress out, we're moving now, we're running away, it's all fine. So that walk is huge. And Dr. Howe, who is one of our associates here at the practice, she's really into functional neurology. And one of the things that she brought to my awareness that I didn't know that's really cool is like part of the female brain is that external processing, lots of words. But when we can have lots of words in movement, it is so much, it's like exponentially helping get rid of that cortisol. And if you can walk with your spouse or a good friend and externally process that while someone's listening, that co-regulation's there, you're getting back into community, you're blowing off the cortisol, like you're hitting multiple points to bring you back into your window of tolerance and allow you then to move forward with your day. That's why walks after dinner are great. Not so much right now in the cold, cold Midwest,
No,
but
they're still good because that cold actually shocks your system out of being so
that's
focused
true.
on anxiety or depression
Yeah.
or disruption. You can go out there and it
Mhm.
brings you a little bit of a wake up call. So
Right. Kirsten's Norwegian. Which
she doesn't
what's
get
her
cold.
what's your Norwegian saying?
There's no such thing as bad weather, only insufficient clothing.
That's right. So bundle up. Take the extra clothes when you go home for the holidays and go take a walk.
And also, putting your body in those extreme temperature changes increases the stress on your body just a little bit to help your cells grow and function better.
Yeah, absolutely. Good hormesis. Good
Good
hormesis.
hormesis. How would you connect that to genetics and epigenetics?
I think at the end of the day, what it all comes down to is yes, you are built a certain way. You express yourself a certain way, not based on your genetics, but based on your predispositions, what you've been built for, but also then how you've been nurtured, as Taylor said at the beginning of the episode, what your family interactions were like, all of those things. So we have these predispositions, but to remember that all of that is changeable, right? I mean, it goes back to the cross and redemption and restoration and all the things that we claim as Christians that Christ did for us through his resurrection power is that, yes, we might look a certain way and we might have been operating a certain way for a long time. But because we are made, we as new creatures, we can do new things. And our bodies are built for it. Our bodies scream the resurrection
Mm-hmm.
in every single thing that we do. I mean, just have a cut on your arm. It heals. You don't have to like stare at it and be like, heal, 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 heal. Like it's innate. It just does it. And that, I mean, I will come to terms with that sometimes when I feel like things are impossible. It's like, no, my body is a self-healing organism. It's how we are designed. But we do have to do some things to help it express that. You should probably wash out the wound. Like there are some things that you should do so that it heals well. And that's all the things that we're trying to talk about, those little steps of doing the little habits, focusing on the positive, even when your body's struggling, even when your emotions are struggling, celebrating the wins of, I'm going to counseling, I'm facing this. Like, that's huge. To walk into a practitioner's office is so commendable because it's so much easier to scroll and have your doctor TikTok, but you're not actually moving out of that activation. You're still in the same spot as you are on the couch when you're just like, I'm done. It's
Yeah.
you're not shifting
Yeah.
your physiology by just staying there. But when you get up and walk out the door and walk into somebody else's office, that's huge. That's
Yeah.
huge.
And if we think about this from the family legacy piece for a second, like as we come back into this conversation about going home for the holidays or just family systems of things, like there is a family history of things, of relational things that have built up over time. Your parents are the way they are because of how their parents treated them. Your grandparents were the way they were because of how their parents treated them. And some of those patterns we aren't aware of. One of the funniest things that parents of young children realize is how much like their parents they are. Like, I'll never say this thing. And then you say it and you have an existential crisis and you're like, oh my gosh. Like, because I said so. Oh my gosh. I'm going to go. I need to take a walk. I just had an activation moment, right? And so there's just a space of recognizing that there are generational legacies of relationships that we're encountering every day. And the more we're not paying attention to it, the more they're going to keep dictating the terms. And so you can be a generation legacy breaker. You can do something different than what has been. And as Abby said, there's just small spaces of doing this one interaction at a time, one choice, one intention at a time, instead of just being like, well, that's just how mom is. I know she's going to say some stupid crap. It's going to make me mad. And all I'm going to do is go drink. Okay. I'm not saying that any of that's wrong per se. There are gradients in that somewhere, but like, what would it be like of just turning back and saying, hey, mom, when you say those things, it really makes me feel low. She might flip out. She might also go, I had no idea. But you don't know. You think you know. You assume you know. Because we have a gut intuition, and maybe there's some history that feeds that, but sometimes it's just fear dictating the terms and saying, no, I know how my mom's going to, because this is how she is. But when you only give that one dimension to a person, you don't give them the opportunity to change. And so it might not do anything, or it might plant a seed for a future. Because sometimes people have to mull things over for a period of time. And so even if it doesn't work immediately, doesn't mean it's not working. It just means that we have to keep going.
Yeah. And you can do that physically too. I mean, I love the space of, that's one of the mottos of my office is transforming family health legacies. Like when you choose water over whatever, like you're changing your body, but you're changing your habits and your kids see your habits. Or your mom and dad. Maybe you don't have kids and you're going back home for the holidays and you bring the Brussels sprouts and everybody's like, oh, Brussels
It's
sprouts.
green. What are you doing?
But you make them and you cover them in bacon fat and everybody's like, oh, I didn't know Brussels sprouts could be so good, right? Like you can change it just by like what we're doing here, being curious, having conversations, just engaging something different and not forcing your Brussels sprouts on people, but offering them to your kids, even if they only love chicken nuggies, like they're never going to get out of chicken nugget land if you don't give them something different. And so that changes the family health legacy with those little choices every time.
Yeah. And a part of stewarding your health in all the ways might mean breaking away and making small changes in the decisions that you're making, breaking away a little bit from your unhealthy patterns that your immediate family did or clung to. And even when you're going back and having those conversations in the holidays, Taylor, I love that example of using that you used with a conversation with a mom, like between a mother and daughter, and getting triggered by something and assuming that the person that you have a problem with is going to respond in a certain way, but how we assume that and turn away from the conversation instead of entering it and just telling them how it made you feel. That's such a practical small step to take.
Mm-hmm. And being okay with hearing what they have to say. I don't know how many times I brought something up and they bring it back and say, well, you always look so grumpy when and then it's like, oh, I didn't realize, you realize that it is a two-way street. It is a two-way street. And the way your parent is reacting to you is based on how you're reacting to them. And so being okay with being messy is a sign of hormesis. It's a sign of growth. It's a sign that you are changing the pattern. And that is good. Like it is good.
Yeah.
naming assumptions, like because your mom or dad might be making assumptions that you like something like that, or
That I love donuts and I want to eat as many as I did when I was 9.
good Lord, I don't think
Right?
you could. I mean,
I
that was a lot.
could, but
That was a
then
lot
I
of
would
donuts.
feel so gross.
I do want to add with the donut piece that Kennedy's donut that I tasted when you brought some back from Thanksgiving was really good. It was also probably the first bite of a donut that I have had in, it's been a really long time. So,
Well, when her parents come in January, we'll get you another one.
Oh
thank
yeah,
you.
you can put in an order because they will ask and I will request.
Respond.
So
Tell them I want a blueberry cake donut. If they're listening to this episode, they'll know.
done.
Easily done.
Yep.
All right. Anything else before we introduce the next episode topic?
What is the next episode topic? Do you
Well,
remember?
it's a
Smack
great
your
one.
mic.
It's uppers and downers.
Oh, this is
Oh.
perfect
It's
for right. It's like we planned it.
It's like we planned this. I'm seeing the connections between genetics and epigenetics and family patterns with hormesis, healthy stress, unhealthy
Drinking.
stress, the decisions that we make with stress.
Yeah,
I'm
sitting
speaking
on the
very fast
couch.
and I should slow down.
As I'm drinking my coffee and thinking about drinking later, this is fine. Everything's fine.
It is the
right?
holiday season, but we will address it all without shame and condemnation because we are all in process. We're just going to meet each other where we are and keep having the conversation.
All right. Thank you for listening to the New Dominion podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, leave us a review because it helps others find us. And we will see you next time when we are talking about uppers and downers and what we try to do to regulate ourselves or keep ourselves happy. See ya.
Bye.